Hey everyone, Daniel from GaryMusicStudio.com. In this video, I'm concluding what I began yesterday, talking about my marketing process for 2018, the basic steps, the basic pieces of what I do to market my studio. Now, just as a bit of review, the first three things, and I'm just going to very briefly go through those because if you watched yesterday, you already know what these are, but the first three things were create ads and great marketing, and I went through the whole process of that and how ads aren't just ads, that truly great ads are disguised as education or entertainment. Second thing is, if something works, keep working it. And the third thing is, how do you identify? What are the 5 signs that your marketing is actually bad? And what are the things that could actually be contributing to the badness of your marketing? So we went really into detail in that, and in fact went so much into detail that I cut the video short, and that's why I'm doing part 2 today. I just figured I'd said enough. It was enough to think about. So here we are, part 2, and I want to kind of finish those last 4 things. How I conceive of marketing and what it is that I do to create marketing and move my studio forward. So the fourth thing that I do, after even evaluating my own marketing and seeing if there are problems with it, evaluating individual pieces of the marketing, is to just look at the opportunities that are around me. Specifically, what new things might be coming into the market, what new things might be coming into common use in the marketing industry that I can utilize for myself. Now, I will tell you, I follow a lot of marketers. Follow their blogs, follow their Twitter accounts, follow their YouTube channels, and I like to keep my thumb to the pulse of what's happening in the larger culture. What I found about the piano teaching industry, or the music teaching industry, I keep saying piano because that's what I teach, but the truth is this applies to any studio or school, no matter what discipline you teach. But within the music industry, what I found is that we're often lagging by 5 to 10 years what the general culture is doing in terms of cutting edge marketing. So for instance, AdWords came out in 2000. It really wasn't a common thing for the average studio or music school under 150 to 200 students. It wasn't common for AdWords to be used for almost 10 to 15 years after that technology came out. Most teachers just weren't using it. And in fact, in 2000, when AdWords was rolling out and big businesses were starting to use it, the truth is that even at that time, many music studios or music teachers weren't even getting into things at that point that had been commonly used as advertising channels in the 90s and 80s. So we tend to lag there. As culture has moved forward and as technology has kind of seeped into every part of our lives, just as people, I think things have sped up a little bit. I think it's pretty well known that if you want to go for students, that you probably should be on Facebook. Teachers are just now starting to get into Facebook ads, even though that ad platform has been around for 6 years. But that makes things a little less competitive in our industry, which is great. If you can be ahead of the curve, you will get outsized results. And so what sorts of things are being done right now in much more cutthroat industries that is not being used inside the music education industry? That's what I've kept my ear to the ground with. And so while things like Facebook and Instagram and advertising on those channels and trying to get students through those channels, while that's become pretty common and well known, what are the things that are forward looking? What's being done right now? So I'll give you a few things that I've got my eye on. One of them is influencer marketing, which is just going to people who have a large number of followers on, let's say, Snapchat or Instagram or on Facebook, and actually going to that person individually and paying them to promote your business. This is being used in the larger world. So if you follow anyone on Instagram that's like a fashion person, entertainer, anyone like that, anyone who has a lot of followers, you'll often notice that they'll have a post that says sponsored post, and maybe they're sponsoring a brand, or they're sponsoring a product. And I'm talking on people who have 500,000, million, 2 million followers, these kinds of people. Well, what's happening in the larger marketing world is that is actually coming down. Like, there are people now who have 10,000 followers, 5,000 followers, who are getting brand and advertising opportunities even for an audience size of that small, an audience size that's that small. And what I'll tell you is that if you can find someone in your local area, maybe a mini celebrity, maybe someone who's really well known in your community, and you can just pay them for a sponsored post. They might be open to something like that. It sounds really weird. I will tell you that in 5 to 10 years, this is going to be really common. I know it's going to happen. This isn't even really my original thinking. This is just as I've kept my ear to the ground, as I've paid attention to what really genius and forward-thinking marketers are saying. This is where I'm picking up ideas like this. So that's one thing. Another thing will be the rise of marketing automation. And a simple example of that, there's a product called MailChimp. MailChimp is an automatic email responder. So if someone gives you their email address, you can plug it into this, and it will send them a pre-packaged set of marketing messages or follow-up messages, not necessarily marketing, anything you'd want to send to someone over time. Well, I personally currently use this in my studio. When a new family comes on board, I take their email address and the parent's first name, I put it in this pre-packaged list of emails that get sent out, and over the course of the first 9 months that they're inside my studio, they get email messages from me and my address, and I don't have to send them. And what this has done for me, why this is so important, is that it takes the element of chance away. What if I forgot to send some of those messages? What if I was having a bad week? What if, I just forgot to put the person on my registration form and I forget to send those messages? What I'll tell you is that all the students that have joined my studio over the last couple of years have gotten a very consistent experience of onboarding in my studio because I have this preset number of messages that get sent out. And so the experience is really uniform, and they get a lot of value out of the things that I teach them and educate them about during that onboarding process. So that's just 2 ways that technology is changing the way that we'll market over the next few years. And I think that you'll see more and more big studios start to use some of these things, and then that'll trickle down to small studios. Just like what happened with Google AdWords, just like what happened with Facebook ads, and other opportunities that we have. Other things that we can do in the realm of technology also include using apps within the educational component. This is becoming more and more prevalent inside many different studios, all the way down to small private studios, and then using the value that we get from those apps in our marketing, letting parents know that we're a forward-thinking studio. So that's another way that technology, I think, will influence things. And then, speaking about education, this is actually another part of the process. I'd say this is step 5 or the 5th thing that I think about when I think about my marketing process for 2018 and beyond. And that's just to remember that I'm educating people, not selling them. I'm not trying to sell parents on piano lessons. I'm educating them to the value of piano lessons, and there's a big distinction. One is push. The other one is where I'm trying to push messages out, where I'm trying to convince people. I never really want to be in that position. I don't want to be chasing people. Rather, what I prefer to do is put out a bunch of compelling information and wait for people who are interested or semi-interested to come read that information and then contact me. It's a completely different way of thinking things. Instead of trying to convince people, educating folks, letting them get excited, and then letting them choose to reach out. Even the way that relationship begins will influence and impact how that relationship continues over the course of months and years that you work with that family. There's a sense that, we chose him, not, we were looking for a teacher and this guy, talked to us and he just seemed to kind of be the best one. He was kind of pushy. He was maybe a little bit rude. He was trying to convince us to do things. It just really changes how the beginning of the relationship plays out, and then as a result, the feelings that people have to you over time, the sense of loyalty, the sense of, or the retention that you experience in your studio. And that then leads to number 6, which is referrals. The experience that you give new families, especially during those critical first 3, 6, 9 months, the experience that a family has, you delivering on the promises that you promised in your marketing, you delivering on the attitude that you told parents that you'd exhibit as a teacher. If you live up to those promises, if you create a really great initial experience for the child and for the parent, the natural enthusiasm that comes is often highest in that first year. You'll find that enthusiasm with families is really, really high in the first year. It kind of wanes, and then when kids get through that rough area, In the piano world, that'd be around like level 3A or 3B of Faber. Go into level 4. That's kind of the tough spot. If kids can get through that, they often go the distance. And then the excitement level goes back up because the parent now sees, wow, we've invested a couple years and a couple $1,000s into this kid's education, and now they're really sounding quite good, really impressive stuff. We're posting recital videos online and we're actually proud of them. They're not just playing with one finger anymore, that sort of thing. Capitalize on that excitement that parents experience at the beginning by asking for referrals. And I would say ask for them quarterly, at least quarterly. Go to people and actually ask for it. And there's various scripts and formulas you can use to, in a non-pressurized way, ask for that. But I'm not going to get into that here because this video will end up being an hour long. But I will kind of close this thought by saying that referrals are a sign of health in your business. That if you're getting referrals, that is often a sign that what you're doing with customers is really, really working. And if you're not, then it could be your technique's off, or it could be that families actually are kind of cool about your studio. They think the studio is mediocre, and that's a tough thing to hear. That's a tough thing to confront, but if you kind of troubleshoot, look at all the variables at play, and determine which of those two is actually true, you can then begin to actually address the problem at hand and start seeing more referrals, start seeing growth in your business. That leads me to number 7, the 7th in my marketing process, and that is follow up forever. Until people tell you to stop or they get a restraining order. Do not stop following up with people. And I'm not just talking about people who contacted you because they were interested in lessons. I'm talking about people who are actually inside your studio. Let's break those down into 2 different categories. The first, people who initially contact you. Those folks, if they don't end up coming in for an intro lesson or having a phone consultation or signing up, those people, you've spent time and money and effort in getting people to raise their hand and say, we'd like lessons. It would be nice if we could get more of those people who actually reached out and contacted you. It would be nice if we get more of those people to end up coming on to lessons. And what I found is that if I keep following up with people over time in a variety of ways, that over time, those people will end up becoming students. Perfect example. There's a family that reached out to me, this must have been 4 or 5 years ago. They reached out to me in the spring, and the dad emailed me, asked about lessons. I started chatting with him through email, telling him all about my studio, and then I got kind of thrown for a loop because eventually the dad made a comment about the child that seemed a little bit off. So I asked what the child's age was. It turns out the child had just turned 3. Well, I don't see kids that young. I don't have a preschool program in my studio. It's just a choice I've made. And I said to Dad, there's really no room in my program for someone that young. Could I get back in touch with you 3 years from now or 2 years from now when they're 5? And Dad said yes. I went 2 years out in my calendar, and I put a note in the calendar to actually reach out, get in touch with this person, and ask them if they wanted to join then. But here's the thing. I didn't just leave it to chance. Who knows what happens in those next 2 years? I actually kept following up with that dad and just occasionally sending emails saying, hey, I was thinking about you. Hey, check this out. I know it isn't time to begin yet, but I want to show you something that one of my students did, really cool. Reached out once and said, hey, like my Facebook page, things of this nature. When it came time for that, when that child was of the proper age, reached back out to them, they were really excited to get going, and they jumped right in. Another way that you can follow up with people who don't initially come in for the trial lesson or the introductory lesson, whatever you call it, if they don't come in for that or they don't sign up for lessons, what are you going to do with that person? It's kind of a waste. Well, I keep a list, and I have a list that goes back many, many years. I keep a list of everyone who's ever contacted me, and there's a number of things I do with that list. I probably could make a whole video just about that, but one of them is that about quarterly, I will go down that list of phone numbers and email addresses and follow up with every single one of those people. It takes 45 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, depending on how many of the people on the list I want to contact, but I will reach out, sometimes individually, and ask how they're doing, ask if they want to join, things of this nature. I will tell you, every time I do this, I pick up a few students from this because I just keep following up. And again, most studios don't go to the trouble even of keeping track of all the people who have contacted them, let alone actually following up with those people years later. And sometimes people tell me to stop, and I'm cool with that. I'm glad. It's that much less time that I have to spend following up with someone who doesn't want to hear it. So it saves me time, and it allows me to focus more on people who actually will join the studio. So I follow up forever, and I'm not going to get too far into this, but I do continue to follow up with people who do join the studio. Like I said, I have a pre-packaged set of messages that go out over the first 9 months, talking about practice, talking about policies for the studio, educating parents as to what their role should be in the lessons, educating parents as to what I expect of their child, things of this nature. And it really provides a personal touch to parents. They really feel connected to me. And oftentimes I'll, hear about these emails, and it's the same email that goes to every parent, and it goes out, at pre-selected times following when they first sign up. But parents will say, oh, hey, I got that email from you the other day. Really appreciated that. That was really helpful. Again, I'm educating my customer. I'm drawing them closer to me. I'm building a greater sense of engagement and connection with me, and that pays off over time. When I started doing a lot of these things that I'm talking about in this video and the video that I did yesterday, when I started doing those things, I saw my retention rate just creep up. Just slowly at first, but then greater and greater and greater, because the effect of all these things over time was that parents had a real sense of connection to the studio, which led to greater loyalty and retention for me. So that is the end of the video today. If you like this video, would love for you to hit the like or love button. Share this if you think it would be helpful to someone in some of the online forums that we participate on Facebook, or maybe send it out to a friend of yours. And I will see you in the next video. I'll probably be doing another one come next Monday. I've got a lot of cool stuff to share with you all coming here through the month of January. So anyway, have a great day. See you soon.